supposed to make you feel? Keeping that in mind, I do believe we found the Picassos of heavy music. Spiritbox is the name of the band. You may be familiar. This may be the first time you're hearing about them. Their front woman, Courtney LaPlante, joining us this evening on Loudwire Nights. Thank you so much for your time, Courtney. Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and thank you for that intro. I wish I could just have you walk around with me anytime I'm feeling insecure, like at the gym and stuff. If I can't lift an extra rep, you can just sit there and be like, you're the Picasso of this gym.
You're the Hulk Hogan of that squat rack, Courtney. Yeah. Get it. Oh, yeah.
I appreciate such a lovely intro. Thank you.
Of course, always. I mean, everybody says, and we can start there, everybody says such great things about your band. Critics, fans, you'll be hard pressed to, I haven't heard or read one negative thing. You've been in a band in the past where you felt like, all right, this band is going nowhere. So how does this feel different for you? And how does that kind of expectation sit with you?
I forgot what it's like, and I don't think I've actually ever experienced what it's like to be like the new band. And I've watched some of my friends go through that, like back in the day in my old band, my friends that started out opening, and then I kind of just watched them grow and become like the next big thing. And it is so weird. It feels like I cast a spell on everyone, and they're living in this alternate reality where everything is amazing. Meanwhile, I'm in the real reality where everything is like hanging on by a thread and takes, and we narrowly dodge, disaster like every day. And so it's really cool. I feel like this is it's very special. And I want to always remember this feeling, because you're never the new, you can't stay the new band for long. It's like when the new kid moves into school, everyone's like, who's that new girl? And you have to hold on to that moment, because then there's always going to be the backlash to it, which I welcome, because that means that we're getting our name out there to more people. And so that's actually, I do see some negative stuff, and I actually get really excited when I see it, because it means that we're leaving our little safe space, our little bubble of our diehard fans, and they're showing us to the rest of the world. And like, it's so all, basically that was a long-winded rant of me saying it's just really overwhelming, but also quite fascinating, trying to like look at it and analyze it, trying to be objective. Of course I can't be, but it's a very strange feeling, and it's so cool. I've been waiting for this for my whole life, pretty much.
It sounds like what you described perfectly is like Instagram versus real life. Like, people are seeing you as Instagram, and you're like, wait, no, but you don't even know how many pictures it took to get this.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
I can relate. Let's talk about, before we talk about Eternal Blue, the upcoming debut album, which arrives September 17th, let's talk a little bit about your path to getting here for those who are unfamiliar. Just let's start at the beginning. What were you like as a kid? How about that? Let's start all the way back. I'm curious about you.
I think I was one of those kids that I was always on. Like, I was always performing in my own head. I was just, my whole day just was me creating my own little movies and like skits and plays and performances. Like, a lot of kids are like this, but if I was watching The Little Mermaid, I wasn't watching it, I was like in the movie. Like, I was acting out I would be each little character and sing the whole movie. I was probably very annoying to be around, but I'm very thankful that my parents didn't just tell me to shut up. They just let me be weird. They let me be a weird little theater kid. And then I kind of, I always liked singing and performing and acting and stuff, but all that stuff kind of took a back seat as I became a teenager. I started to lose interest in a lot of stuff, and just through being depressed and going through a lot of stuff that most, nothing crazy, just stuff that most kids go through. And and then I just started focusing more on like the paint by the numbers, like, okay, I want to get in a good college, therefore I must do this sport and I must be a part of this committee and I must be a part of this and that. And I got very like every activity I did was a strategy. It wasn't just because it was something I loved. Um, Strategy for me to get a scholarship, essentially.
Right.
And then so I still did, so I still did like theater, but I only would try out if I knew I'd get the part.
Playing
Like
it
I
safe,
was
playing it safe all the
playing
way.
it really safe. And um, I suddenly moved to Canada when I from the States when I was 15. My mom and dad divorced, and my mom married a guy that lived up here. So we all moved here with him, and that was like so that kind of like restarted my life because it made me, I went from like being the big fish in the small pond in my high school to coming to a school that had 1,500 kids in it in my class, and I realized that how none of that stuff mattered. It didn't matter if I was the most popular person or the smartest. The school was so big that I wasn't the best at anything, and I realized that that was okay. There was always someone funnier than me in improv class, and there was always someone prettier than me, and there was always someone smarter than me, and it was okay. And it made me realize that all those things that I thought I wanted, I didn't want. And then I just started, privately trying to make music. Nothing that I would ever even conceive of showing anyone. And then me and my little brother started a band, and just locally, but we had dreams of making it to the big times. And here I am. I kind of just stumbled into heavy music because my brother and I just we kept being more and more influenced by heavy music. And then that's how I met my husband, and locally, like, we were in the same types of bands. And then we joined Iwabo together and made Spiritbox together. So it's been like 15 years of trying to figure out my life.
That's crazy. It's not always a straight shot. Is your husband's real name Michael Stringer, like guitarist with the last name Stringer?
I know.
Is
Do you
this
see the
destiny?
Yeah, it's like, come on, brand deals. Let's get this guy some string endorsements.
Absolutely. So you've been in a band with your brother, now you're in a band with your husband. What is it about working with family that you just can't compare that connection, whatever it is, that special thing, working with a family member, even with your best friend, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things. I never know if they just happen to be my family members who happen to be my like music soulmates, or if the how intimate of a relationship you have with someone in your family, that lent itself to us feeling like we had this musical connection. But I don't know what it is. I think it's just because I both really never want to disappoint Michael, but I also feel completely okay with being very vulnerable around him because he's my husband. So, maybe if he was someone else, I might be a little stressed out, presenting an idea to the table. But when you're presenting ideas like that to the table to someone who's your husband, who's seen you at your best and your worst and everything in between, you don't really have any of those like anxieties of them not understanding what you're trying to do. So I think it's helpful. There's a lot of bands out there that have a family connection that seem to, some of them can be really dysfunctional, but a lot of them seem to really understand each other. I look at like the guys in Gojira, the brothers. I love that.
Yeah.
There's such like
We,
you can tell there's a strong connection.
yeah, we recently spoke with their frontman. He's just amazing. Spiritbox, the name of your band, is a device that's used to communicate with the dead or help facilitate communication with the dead. So I guess the obvious question is, do you believe that you can communicate with the dead? Have you?
I'm just scared of it. Like part of me knows that a lot of things that I've seen can be rationally explained away. And then and even so, like, I've had a weird, like, supernatural encounter myself, and I'm still able to, like, compartmentalize it and look at it and be like, I mean, it's probably, even so, like, it happened to me, and I'm still so skeptical of it.
You
I'm
have
like,
to tell us. You have to tell
yeah,
us what. Yeah.
I was on the Queen Mary boat in Long Beach, because doing a festival for my old band, and there's like, it's like a super haunted place, and then there's a super haunted room that's so haunted, and it's annoying that people try to go to it all the time. So like, they took the numbers off the door, but we were able to figure out what room it was. And our green rooms were the ship cabins for the festival that we were doing. So we were all just goofing around and, like, having a bunch of beers and having fun with all the other bands performing. And we went, so we went to this room, and we were like, hey, people hear that their, like, water will turn on inside the room, and there's no furniture in it because the furniture would be moving around. So it's like a stripped room. Like, you couldn't stay there as a guest. And so we were just, like, listening and kind of just, like, laughing and being like, hey, ghost, like, knock on the door if you want a beer. And this was in, like, 2014, I think. And yeah, I, like, how do I explain this briefly? I put my ear up to the door, and it was, like, silent, and then it was like I felt like I got electrocuted. Like, like someone whispering in my ear so loud that it, like, filled up my whole head. And
Whoa.
it, like, and then I just, like, I pushed away and I freaked out, and then I just, like, got so sad. It was like I was having an allergic reaction. Like, my eyes, like, I wasn't crying, but my eyes were watering, my nose was running. Um, and, like, my cuticles of my, like, felt singed, like, where I had them on the door. And but just, like, pain, like a cramp in my cuticles, like, it was so weird, like, under my nails, like, here where it's, like, soft. And then it was like I got depressed, and it was like someone was in my head being like, jump off the boat, jump off the boat, jump off the boat.
What?
And I was just like, so, and I wanted to, like, I was like, I was not me. It was like I was experiencing something. And then my husband is very sensitive to that stuff, and he quickly grabbed me by the shoulders, and he said, let's walk. The farther we walk away, it's all gonna go away. And he just kept walking me left, right, left, right, like all through the corridors. And the farther away I got, the less then I started to calm down. It was just like I had, like, a crazy anxiety attack or something. And so that weird thing happened to me where it was almost like someone was in my head telling me to do something bad. And even then, I'm still like, I don't know if I believe in that stuff. I mean, I was very stressed out. I could have had a anxiety attack. I could have had some sort of stress trigger, something. Like, there's all these things that it could have been. But
Does
then
an anxiety attack affect your cuticles?
I don't know. See, irrational. Like, even when those things, even when there is proof, it's like my brain is trying to protect me from whatever weird I was thinking of, and I rationalize everything away. So I'm very scared of that stuff. So I don't know that 100% of all the stuff I see is true, but I also respect it now, and I would never mess around with it. Like, I will never mess around with, like, having a spirit box, like, doing, like, if we ever did, like, an immersive thing with our fans, I would never have a spirit box there for us to, like, talk to the dead. And I don't even now like to use spirit box recordings in the music that are real ones, because I'm, like, scared to do them.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So
That's
I
crazy.
don't know. I'm like, it's just one of those, I guess it's just one of those weird things that you think it's easy to be like, that's everyone that's around that's faking, until it happens to you, and then you're like, what is that? What happened?
Yeah, that would scare me out of not having a spirit box at the next
Hell
meet and
no.
greet. You know, we could find
No.
something else to put
No,
in to
no,
set
I'm
it.
not touching a Ouija board or I'm too scared of that stuff. I'll look at it and I'm interested in it, but I'm not gonna touch it. Like
Down.
I
I get
can't deal
that.
with it.
Okay, same. All
I
right,
guess
so
that shows my answer. I guess I believe in it a little bit more than I thought I
I think
did.
you do. That's a solid yes. You don't want to even dabble in it. I think you do. After
Yeah.
that experience, I mean, kind of, how can you not? There's no. But we shall move on from your close encounters
Yeah,
to
whatever the hell that was.
whatever that was, to the upcoming debut album, which is arriving September 17th. It's called Eternal Blue. We've heard some tracks off the upcoming record. Circle With Me, Loudwire wrote, my friend Joe DeVita, who's a writer at Loudwire, said that it sounds like the future of heavy music. Again, with the compliments that never end for your band.
Oh my God. I just need someone to be like, I need one thing to be like Spiritbox. They're okay.
Give it time. You know how the industry works. You're right.
The sophomore record.
Exactly. Sophomore slump, spirit
Yeah.
box. But my question is, so the song is kind of reflecting this contrast that was going on in your brain while you were writing the song. So we're actually hearing that in the lyrics. And I'm curious, those voices that pop up in all of our heads, one tells us this, one tells us that. What is that like for you? How does it manifest itself into your art, into your life?
It's just like a really big part of my life is just, all the everything what's the word? Like when you're not confident. Just all the insecurity I have. I have so much insecurity. Like the second that anything good happens to me, I immediately am like, but but what if it fails? What if this fails? What if that fails? Because we have to make a lot of split second decisions all the time. Jump on this tour. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? And everything's growing so much faster than we ever could have dreamed. So I'm trying to change my mindset away from that and into just living more in the moment and just thinking about the positives rather than the negatives of all the hard work to get to that point that I got to get to. Um, but yeah, like it's just all that stuff just manifests itself in insecurities about failing because the stage that I potentially can fail on just keeps growing larger and larger. And I haven't had the in between stuff to bridge the gap. So I have to just keep remembering that yes, in this band, I haven't gone to play a lot of shows and I don't have a lot of experience, but we all have to just try to remember our back catalog and our past lives. We have the experience. We're all going to be fine. It's like riding a bicycle. We're all going to be fine. But man, right now, it's very hard to reconcile all those feelings because it's a lot of stress, but I have to keep reminding myself I worked my whole life to get this stressed out. This is good. I want to be what if I wasn't stressed out right now, it would be because I had nothing going on, you know?
And does that help you live, that stress, that insecurity? Does it make you push harder, or do you find it crippling at times?
Once I am like in my outfit and I have my makeup on and I have my little battery pack on to go up on stage, a whole calm goes over me. And it's like an out of body experience and I'm watching myself perform essentially. But everything in between that, before and after, I get really stressed out because none of this stuff is on autopilot yet. I'm very, very aware. Every show we do, there's just a new thing that we haven't encountered. We have, my family hasn't gone to watch me perform in 6 years, so every show, like my dad and my grandparents are gonna come to, like wherever they are in the country. Like everyone's just really excited for us,
So sweet.
um, and our friends that we haven't seen in a long time. And I just, I want to do a great job. So I get really stressed out because I have so much work to do. But I was thinking yesterday that um, I at least I can acknowledge and I understand there's so much work to do. Because if I didn't realize that, then that would be a worse sign. That's what this weird, ugly thing is here. It's I made a when I say I, it's not I. Michael and his dad made me a vocal booth in this closet here so that I can because we live in a condo, and so now I can do screaming in the condo and practice every day.
Very
So
cool.
that's it's not beautiful yet, but it's blue, so it's at least going with the theme.
It matches, and Michael is handy, so that is a bonus. He can play,
Yeah.
he can build stuff, so that's
Yeah, yeah.
very good.
So they built that for me last night, and so that will help. That makes me feel much more confident because now it's time to practice. I got to get to practicing, but I think that being able to acknowledge what you need to work on is like it's to me half the battle, because it's more worrisome if you can't tell that you're needing to work on your singing or you're off time, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, right, right. Speaking of your family and screaming, when I first heard Holy Roller, I thought, holy moly, how does she scream that way? Thankfully, Loudwire has an entire video dedicated to it, so you can Google that after this interview. And then my second thought was, I wonder what her family's reaction was the first time she's like, Mom, I want to be a musician, or whoever you shared it with. And the first time you delivered those screams to them and what their reaction was.
I think that it happened so it was such like an immersion, because I started out, you know, in my band starting out, it's like we were a band for 6 years, but we were a teenager band that just kept going, and our tastes formed. We happened to keep the same band name, but like that's when all the people in the band were all discovering the types of music that they like and discovering heavy music for the first time. So we started out as more of like Tom Morello, like Audio Slave, Rage Against the Machine, kind of like funk metal thing. And then and then you can kind of see like the trajectory of us discovering different types of heavy music and discovering System of a Down and discovering like Alexis on Fire and Protest the Hero and all those Canadian bands and Architects and Under Oath, and just like progressing as they that our tastes changed. So my parents kind of slowly, like me, got immersed into the screamo tub, they, and then before it was too late, there's like, oh wow, some of these songs are full screaming, so I think they all slowly eased into it like me, so it wasn't like a shock to them, because I started out, I had one song where I did like one little scream, and then the next song I did two little screams, and then 15 years later I have some songs that are full screaming and full singing. So I think they're used to it now, and they actually, because of our music, they've learned about a lot more about heavy music, and they actually have become fans of other bands through it, and discovered that there's this whole huge ecosystem of heavy music, which has been cool.
There you go, educating the family. I love it.
Yeah.
Going back to the Architects, you have Sam Carter, frontman for Architects, on track 3, Yellow Jacket, of the upcoming debut album. What was it that made you want to work with Sam? What was it like working with Sam?
Well, it was a surprise, because I would never have the audacity to ask him to be on a record, but I was, when we were recording, we really ran out of time, just the way that everything worked with trying to get this done during the pandemic. I did want to have a lot of my friends feature on this, and then I didn't have them on because there just wasn't time. So it's like, all of you or none of you. I don't want to like pick and choose and hurt this friend's feeling, or whatever, or just have it be rushed. So I was like, whatever, no features on this one, which is cool, because I need to just prove myself and like not rely on my fancy friends to lend their voice. And so anyway, while we were in the middle of like just kind of finishing up the recording process in February, Sam offered to be on one of our songs. He's like, how's recording going? And he's been a big supporter of the band, and he was like, I'll be on a song, let me be on one. And I was just like, what? Okay. Sure. Like, what am I gonna say? No, Mr. Sam Carter, guy who I love your voice and you inspire me to be a vocalist. No, you can't be on my song.
You didn't even have to ask. He came to you.
Yeah, he's a big supporter of our band, and then he also has grown up with our bass player Bill. They used to tour in bands together when they were younger. So, and then Bill's best friend Adam is in Architects. Bill and Adam have been best friends since they were like 6 years old. So, the bands all always kept up with one another. And so I don't know Sam well. I met him one time when he came when we went to an architect show because Bill was cutting all their hair. So because of that we got to all go backstage and meet them. And so we were all like,
That's
and
hilarious.
tried to be all like cool around them, but we're like total dorks. This was like in 2018 probably, and so I did meet him one time, but I was really excited. He just tracked himself and sent out over his files. They were absolutely perfect. They sounded amazing. The raw files just sound like the most perfect compressed professional things you've ever heard. He truly whooped my ass on this thing. Like that's what I told him. I was like, just don't worry about showing me up. Like your goal is to just make me look like shit. That's what I want. And so he pretty much sings on the whole thing, and it's really cool. We purposely gave him a weird song because we just didn't want, just because we're new with our label and we're new with getting to know our team. We just didn't want any pressure from the outside world to put out the Sam song as a single, because we didn't want to like take advantage of him in that way. But when he gave the song back to us, like I up until like last week, I've been battling like, should we have this song be a single? Because it's so cool. It's so awesome. It's like one of my favorite songs on the album. But we decided no. I'm like, no, let it be a treat. Like, let's not. I promised him that I wouldn't have it be a single. I need to just chill out and just
Honor that.
honor that, right?
Right. So Yellow
So
Jacket, that's track 3 on the upcoming album Eternal Blue. It arrives September 17th by Spiritbox. So we're just going through the songs that we've all already heard that you've put out there. Constance, that made me cry, me and every other person who watched the video. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. I mean, you guys make the best videos. That's another topic.
thank you.
In order to write a song like Constance, of course, there has to be a very powerful emotional story behind it. So if you don't mind sharing, I know you have shared it in the past, but if you don't mind sharing it for the sake of our audience.
Yes, the song was written and the melody was written back in like 2019. Like so I like the top line I hummed and I already knew how I wanted to sing, but we always knew it was going to be the final song on the album. That's why we made it to be like the album closer. And it always just sat with me, and I never really changed the melodies, but I didn't put down any I didn't put down any words, like I didn't record them on purpose. I just would listen to my humming. And I just was like, I just want to wait till we're actually recording this to put this down because this song makes me really sad. And I don't know what it's about. And then I wanted to make sure it was something really special. And then last year, my grandmother suddenly passed away. And because of COVID times, I didn't get to say goodbye to her or anything, like my 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 dad went and saw her. Thank God he was able to go. They let him into the hospital to say hi to her. He flew up there, and I'm in Canada, they're in the States, so I couldn't see her. And the last thing I got to say to her is she was about to go into surgery, and she just she has such a great sense of humor. She just was like, I was so freaked out. I was just about to go and like have lunch with my friends, and then all of a sudden I get a call that this is happening. And then she was just like, she was really super New England lady, and she just was like, I was obviously like trying not to cry and being like, "Hi, Grandma, it's gonna be great. Like, like everything's good. I love you," because I didn't want her to like see me crying. And she just was like, "Remember, if this whole thing goes left, she was like, I'll be dead. Dead people are stupid, so it doesn't matter. All that matters is how you feel." And I was like, she's like, "So don't worry about me. I'll be dead." So she's like, and dead, no, she's like, and dead people are like stupid people. You doesn't matter what's happening around them. They don't get it. And so,
Hilarious.
and so I just was like, so she like, I was, even in those final moments, she was there to console me. Um, of course, such a nice person. And then that's the last time I ever talked to her. And a couple days later, I found out she passed away. And I always, she was elderly and had lots of health problems. So it's not like I never had considered that would happen, but I just never considered the extra layer of sadness I felt, um, of not being able to do all those closure things, like go fly and hug my dad and hug my grandpa and see all my family, go to her funeral, go to her grave, say, regardless of like getting to say bye to her. And she always wanted me to just, sing at her funeral. She wanted me to sing this like Irish blessing song. And, and then her joke was always like, without any of the screamo stuff, and she had a really low voice because she was a smoker. So she had like that really gravelly voice. And so I was like, I want to honor my grandma. Like, this is like my way of memorializing her. So the song is just about someone who feels like they've lost someone and then feels a lot of, just kind of feels it falling apart before their very eyes, um, and how sad they are about it. And the director of the video, Dylan, meanwhile, unbeknownst to each other, we were both going through a similar thing. His was just had the extra layer of, he didn't physically lose the person, but mentally, his grandma, Constance, was lost to him and his family due to dementia, and it's just very painful. And so both of us, kind of as in a therapeutic way, wanted to create a video that would help heal and give closure to each of us for what we were each going through. Um, and so I wrote my lyrics parallel to him making the video, and they informed one another. And and interestingly enough, he presented us with this idea. He didn't even know that my grandma had passed. I'm a pretty private person as far as sad stuff I'm going through. I'm not the kind of person who would make like a giant like post about like missing my grandma and stuff. It's just not really, I like to just be left alone and not have that attention in that way. And so he didn't know, and I didn't know what he was going through. So it really helped both of us a lot. And I'm so proud of that video because I think there's so many people that at that time last year, we were just all sad. Even if it wasn't because you lost someone, it just was,
Absolutely.
everyone was just so sad. So sometimes people don't have the permission from themselves or society to cry. And sometimes you need a sad song or a sad movie or a sad music video to like give you permission to let out those emotions and feelings. And I think that's why a lot of people cried at that video, because there's so many people carrying around so much stress right now due to the pandemic and sadness and loneliness. So I think that video, that's the nice thing about the way we do stuff in this band, is we can just put stuff out when it's authentic to us. And that song, yeah, it's the last song on our album now. And yeah, it came out a long time ago, and it's why is it on this album? But it's because we hadn't recorded our album yet. So we wanted to put something out that we felt would kind of mark a moment in time of how we were feeling at that time, like a thumbprint on that time.
Yeah, it's such a powerful song, such a powerful video. If you haven't yet, you must watch it. Let's talk about the current single, though, which is Secret Garden. So you were terrified to put this song out. Was it as scary as you thought it was going to be? Because we've all read the reaction. And what can you tell us
Well,
about the song?
I was clearly being a big baby. I just don't, normally I would have showed more people. Like I would have showed more of my friends and my band friends and my colleagues. But I just haven't really showed many people my album because I don't want to send it to too many people because I don't want someone to accidentally like leak it. So it's been very kept close, you know, because it's so long till it comes out. I would prefer to just wait a couple more months till I'm like sending it out to people. And so I was really scared that people wouldn't get the song. They'd be so focused on like the kind of upbeat, energetic rock chorus that they wouldn't understand the song as a whole. And I was really happy. I actually, you know, lots of mixed the mixed reactions I thought and I knew would happen are just the people that annoy me anyway, who are just so like weirdly, they're just so worked up about like a formula of like the singing to screaming ratio. And I think that those people, they like their singing to screaming ratio at a nice tight 80-20. They like 80 screaming and then 20% singing. And that's just very, that's where they're comfortable. And in their mind, if something falls anywhere different on the spectrum, that means that the band is now making a statement that they will never do screaming again. You know, so to some people, that was a statement like, we are now a rock band and we're not ever going to do any screaming again, you know, like F all of you, you know. So, but in reality, that's just not how writing music works, you know. Releasing music and writing music are not, they're not uh, linear, you know. They have, so Secret Garden, we made that before we made the song Holy Roller, you know, and we made that song before we made Constance. You know, we just hadn't put it out yet. So it's, I think that it was obviously way less of a big deal than I made it be in my head, but I just had so much pressure on the song myself. I put so much pressure on me to have the song perform well. And I wanted people to accept it because it was kind of like the final push of then releasing the pre-orders for our album that I just was like, oh my God. So when I had to do, like, whenever I have to do a press release thing, I don't just say, like, I am very happy and grateful for you to hear my song. Like, I'm like, how am I feeling right now? I'm actually feeling kind of messed up about this.
You're real. Like you actually, you're not giving us copy point answers. You're actually going into your head and saying, okay, let me think about what she asked me and let me answer it honestly,
Yeah,
which
because
is,
it's true.
yeah.
It's true. And you know, but I learned that people are gonna like it or not like it, and people are not people that get it, and that's all I can ask for is that a couple people get it, you know. But I love that song. It just makes me really, it makes me really happy, and it's a really complicated song to play musically. Like it doesn't sound like it is, but it's hard to play, so it's a challenging song. So it's fun for us to try to rise to the occasion and like nail that song. And it just I love the I love that it has like an actual like rock chorus, you know. We were like we weren't afraid to go there.
We'll wrap on this one. I know you host a podcast, which I think is pretty cool. It's called Good for a Girl, and it's all about being a woman in the music industry, especially in the world of metal. What do you want to accomplish with that podcast, and what have you learned from it thus far?
Well, it's like a two-pronged thing. It's I want to talk to all these people. I want an excuse to get in a room with these people and just talk to them about every question I have about how they got to where they got so that I can learn from them. And then at the same time, you know, the reason I want to do that is because I never really had anything that I could look to when I was starting out that was kind of like a ready database of, you know, a little toolkit for people trying to make it in the music industry. The only people I ever had access to were other singers, so I could pick their brain. But then there's just so many other people behind the scenes that, as a artist at the time, who wasn't like a professional artist and didn't see the professional side, there's all these people behind the scenes that are such an integral role to making music. And it had never occurred to me that I could have a role there. Like it never once occurred to me that I could be a manager, or I could be a tour manager, or a front of house person, or anything like that, because it's just one of those weird things. Sometimes it just takes a visual to make you realize that you can do it too. So that's why diversity is so important to me, because it really does sometimes take one person that looks like you see them, and then it gives you that confidence to know that you could also do that, because no one ever pushes you as a girl into those roles ever. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to the rule. So I think it's such a great thing for me personally, like in a selfish way. I'm learning so much, and I'm getting access to these really amazing people. But I think that we'll all benefit from listening to what they have to say in a podcast format, because we don't have to like get really bullet pointy, and we don't have to hit objectives of like, and we must talk about sexism here. Some of the conversations, we don't even ever talk about our trials and tribulations. And I think that's important too, because I think often a lot of us get kind of we get very one-dimensional depending on who's interviewing us. Like sometimes I do an interview with a guy, and that they only ask me about being a girl. That's all they ask me about. And I like to think that that's not interesting sometimes. And it is in certain contexts, but I'd like to think that like the questions you've asked me, like those are things that I'm interested in hearing as a girl, being asked about singers that I like, not just them being like, so what's it like? You're like, I don't know, it sucks.
How do you think it's like to have some jerk in the crowd scream, show me your...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what do you think?
No, I always just, my little sarcastic answer, I was like, it's the same as in any it's no different than any male dominated place of work. It kind of just sucks, and you got to learn how to deal with it.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's the saying? If you could see her, you could be her. So kind of what you're saying there.
That's perfect. Yeah. It's really is true. And it helped me. Everything I've ever done, it's because I saw someone else that was like me do it first, and went, hey, I can do that, then I can do it.
All right, so we will wrap on that note. Eternal Blue is the debut album by Spiritbox. It arrives September 17th. I had a really, really enjoyable time speaking with you, Courtney. I hope you stay just like that. I feel like somewhere along the road, musicians stop being their authentic self and they become copy points, and it becomes really boring. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you. Well, it makes a big difference with who's interviewing you. So I appreciate your questions, because they're actually very engaging, and I can't wait. You've seen every musician when they do the festival circuit press, and none of those people give a fuck about them. They're like, what is your band name? Where are you from? And you're just like, just sucks the life out of you. So I appreciate like having an engaging conversation with you. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.